So there's that thing going round, isn't there, to pick your favourite fragrances from each brand, like I presume your favourite brands. Obviously this is me, and I decided, oh, I'll do an indie one. It's got a bit out of hand, let's say. 18 brands or something, so it will only be one from them. I suppose I'll do another, you know, mainstream brands ones later, but not this one. You know me, I'm not asked about views and stuff like that. That's not why I post videos. I do it so I can, I don't know, ramble on to myself. So these are just going to be some of my favourite indie brands. I'm sure the forgotten ones. That's basically it. I don't need to go into great amounts of depth about other things, do I? So hi. So first up, they're not in any particular order obviously, is 4160 Tuesdays, and I'd say my favourite from them is called Court of Ravens. Do need to buy a bottle. Yes, my sample is a drip now. Best way to describe it, mainly this is rose, patchouli, kind of musks. The patchouli's kind of got a greener edge, and the rose is on the darker, more musky side. But what makes this fragrance, this dream fragrance for me, is the cumin. The cumin is absolutely kind of magnificent through it. It gives us this kind of dangerous edge. It's kind of a animalic to a point of being like humany, and I'm sure this is not what the kind of blurb says about this fragrance, but to me it's kind of like walking through the courtyard of Dracula's castle. You know, there's loads of graves there. There's loads of mysterious animals. It's dark. Every creak kind of scares you a bit. There's all them dark roses and that, and it's a beautiful fragrance. To keep this video brief, that's it. I'm not going to waffle on. That's Court of Ravens from 4160 Tuesday. Next is a fragrance from Wales Perfumery, and this one is called Star. This bottle was travel size was gifted to me to try. Now what Star is it's primarily a sandalwood fragrance. Now it opens, there's a nice yuzu there, so it gives it this kind of fresh pop. And with the sandalwood there's all these kind of spices and things like that. And it's got, like the last one, it's got a bit of a kind of resinous feel about it, but as it kind of develops you get a little bit of I think it's green tea kind of feel running through it, with the sandalwood, and it's just a really gorgeous sandalwood fragrance. It does kind of, for me, because of the greenness, it takes me to a very kind of countryside setting. Now there isn't sandalwood trees as far as I'm aware in this country, so it's still that kind of, it's not overly creamy woody, there's a lot of woody facets to it. It's very lovely. So that's Star from Wales Perfumery. Next is from Ricardo Ramos, and it's called Aljibe. There's so many I could pick from this. This is one I tried last year, so it's kind of more fresh in my mind. And this one is a kind of greener one. Now there's lots of, Ricardo makes things ridiculously beautiful and complex and kind of sometimes a little bit crazy. This one it's not quite like this. It is this kind of green spring kind of floral kind of fragrance. It's not floral, don't get too excited. It's got them spring florals in it. I don't know what's listed. It's been a while since I looked at stuff like that, but what stuck in my mind is the kind of facets of lilac and hyacinth and things like that. So in amongst all these kind of beautiful spring, you know, where the grasses come through and everything's starting to grow, is these sweeter kind of blue purple flowers, and the lilac in it is magnificent. It's quite a natural smelling, beautiful one, and there's like a lovely muskiness around it all. So that's Aljibe from Ricardo Ramos. Next is from Redolescent, and you've heard me speak about this one along many times, and that's called QH. This one is a magical rose. It's obviously based around the Queen of Hearts. It's rose. There's kind of this lovely cheeky fresh fruitiness in there, but there's also this cumin, again adding something special and naughty to the rose, and the kind of, the rose is a mixture of bright and dark, and there's all sorts of other notes in there, you know, like woods. There's more of a spicy element. There could be cardamom in this, giving it a little sparkle, but it's primarily in the beginning the cumin and rose, and then the rose kind of fruitens up, and it's just like this dark red hue with the spices and the woods, and it's even slightly boozy the way the rose comes across. Again, that could be cardamom, or maybe there's a booze note in there. And then the smooth, gorgeous, resinous base. Yeah, again, an absolutely magnificent fragrance. That's the reason I talk about this so much. One of the best roses I've smelt over the last couple of years. So that's QH from Redolescent. Next, this is going to be really hard to keep brief, is from Ambre Perfumes. And this is a Taiwan-based brand, I believe. So this is really kind of something unique and kind of. So yeah, what's Dark Night of the Soul? Well, it's a lot of things. Primarily, it's kind of a little bit boozy. It's a little bit chocolatey. There's obviously a nice muskiness about it. There's this little touch of civet warmth. There's ouds. There's some unusual notes, but it all comes together to be just like this really kind of warm, dark, fuzzy fragrance. It's beautiful. I haven't smelled anything like it really before in my life, and that's what actually does with this brand. They're unique things, and they tell a story, and this one resonated with me because of the connection to, obviously it's about mental health issues and them kind of endless long nights of tossing and turning and your thoughts being quite dark, and it's brilliant. So that's a Dark Night from the Soul from Ambre. Next up is from Angelos Olfactives. Angelos used to be a bit of a kind of reviewer like us, but then he went on to make him. He spent years doing this, and I will do a house overview at one point. Did mean to get round to that this year, but didn't. But anyway, my favourite is Grace d'Orient. Now, what Grace d'Orient is it's like a little nod to them old vintages of like the 80s and maybe early 90s. Charlie! And it's sorry about that. It's kind of a clovey floral, with them lovely spices and the wood. You get the touch of it's like a vintage jasmine and a vintage ylang ylang, and the ylang ylang is probably the more indolic of the notes in there. It's got a little bit of a furry edge. It's not a pissy fragrance, but it's got that kind of feel, and the way it mixes with the florals, and then it's got this kind of golden ambery hue about it as well. It's an absolutely stunning fragrance. It's one I should talk about more, but not in this video. because we're keeping it short. So that's Grace d'Orient from Angelos Olfactives. Next we have one from a brand called Papillon, another British indie brand, and I think we've all heard of this. The one I've picked is my favourite chops and changes, is Dryad. Now, one of the things that Liz Moores, the brand owner, does really well for me is there's a lot of orris in the fragrances. This is not one that doesn't have the orris in, it's in there. But also her use of narcissus, which is not used enough. I understand it's a very expensive note, but it's a chypre. So in amongst all them dry florals and the kind of dry rosiness and that golden hue is the narcissus, which adds that bright green, sweet but sharp, tiny bit sharpness in there, and it just works beautifully. And this smells of warmth, it smells golden, it smells like you're somewhere nice, and it kind of lingering in the base is an oak moss note, which adds that little bit of that kind of soapy smoothness and the greenness, not in the way, it's not over the top oak moss, because I'd struggle with that, but all them florals in there give that little bit of a sparkle still. It's magnificent. So that's Dryad from Papillon. Next is from Maison Sentir, which used to be known as Michael Anthony Perfumes. The fragrance I've got is called Ambre, but it's now called Ambre Brûlè. Michael is based in Derbyshire, where I'm from, which is a small beautiful county in England in the Peak District. It's beautiful there. It's always going to be home. It's just miles of nothing, endless rugged green and mountains. And anyway, this one is, the clue's in the name, it's an ambery fragrance, but there's more to it than that. He's put more little elements. There's a freshness from the citrus in the beginning, but then with the ambryness there's some spices, including a kind of darker, richy kind of feel. It's not just that kind of golden touch, and then there's I think there's sandalwood in, which smooths it out. It doesn't go creamy, it's just this dark ambery multifaceted fragrance, and I think it's particularly the spices that make it go on in a different way, on a different journey to. It's not Grand Soir. It's a similar theme, but it's got a lot more. It's a lot more interesting, and I'm not just saying that. I do genuinely find it a lot more interesting and warmer, and even it has a freshness about it that these big ambery fragrances don't have. I don't know how he does that with some of the spices, probably, but it's a beautiful fragrance. So that's Ambre Brûlè from Maison Sentir. Next, this was kind of gifted. This is Mirads, which is Fab Trends Mia's brand, and they're all perfumed by Miguel Matos. And my favourite from them was Pendragon's Heart, which is a magnificent Miguel style tobacco. It's got tobacco, obviously, endless layers. There's a little bit of naughty spice in there, there's saffron, there's the woods, the tobacco's golden, it's dark, the kind of leatheriness and the rich resinousness gives it this full body, and it's one of them tobacco fragrances again that has this kind of, I don't know, with me tobacco's kind of comforting, that smell of it. It's not fag ash, it's, you know, it's kind of, sorry, that's what we call cigarettes here. It's not cigarette ash, it's just this kind of gorgeous cigars and pipe smoke, so it's kind of smooth and classy at the same time. It's beautifully done. Yeah, that's Pendragon's Heart from Mirads. Next, another British brand is BedeauX. That's Amanda Beadle, who is a sensational perfumer with an award-winning one, which is the famous one. I actually quite struggle with because it's kind of sharp and bright, and you know me. But Hibou is kind of this dark, resinous, ambery orange, and there's a lot of beautiful woods going through it. There's spices, but predominantly what it is this dark, like an orange cake orange. It doesn't smell like orange cake, but it's that, you know, that similar kind of dark, warm orange, like a Christmas orange, if you like, I suppose we call it, mixing with some gorgeous spices. I think there's cloves in it, which is magnificent. There's the rich woods. I think it's rosewood, so it's got that kind of darker. I always struggle to describe rosewood. It's got a very specific scent about it, doesn't it? It's a warm, always makes me think of a posh table or something, and it's just magnificent. It's dark, warming, like I've said before, I'm repeating myself, and elegant and classy. And it's in the cold, it's one of them that is, again, because of the spices and I suppose the kind of winter spices, it just warms you up and makes you feel cozy. So that is Hibou from BedeauX. Next is from Karen Timson, Katie Fine Fragrances, I think they were once known as. It's just Karen Timson now, and a fragrance called Moonpalace. Oh yes, this one is it's kind of your tropical florals, but don't worry, it's not all like one of them overly generic ones. It's the tropical florals, it's the rich tuberose. I think there might be something like an orange blossom, and you kind of frangipani, I think, in this one. And it's bright, it's syrupy, rich, it's warming and enveloping. It's like a cocktail on a tropical paradise, and it's just so smoothly done, and there's an absolutely glorious muskiness about it. So it's got that kind of addictive quality. So it's not just your kind of sunscreeny, you know, boring one. It's much richer, much warmer and enveloping. It's one that you'd probably wear round about now. Yeah, so it's this kind of a lovely tropical floral. So that's Moonpalace from Karen Timson. Next is from Hal of Hove, and it's called KIS, or Keeping It Simple. Hal of Hove are a very teeny kind of British indie brand, and she does loads of things, incense, she upcycles things, just a really wonderful lady with a great passion. I'm so glad she did perfume. I've tried so many of them now, and they're really good, and what the kind of, I don't want to go too, you know, spreading people's business about, but they're calm and peaceful for a reason. And you can really tell that doesn't mean you can't smell them or they're not like proper perfumes, they are. But anyway, Keeping It Simple is this fresh oud. It has real oud in it, it's just a form of oud that doesn't cost an absolute fortune and what have you. And this, it's very, very elegant and woody and vibrant. It almost sparkles. I think there might be cardamom in it or something like that. And just these fresh woods, like freshly chopped trees, and like I say, that little touch of oud adds this freshness. It's just really, really nice. It's really bright, it's really uplifting. It's not what, you know, we all have these ideas of what oud is in our heads. It's not that. It's that woody, greener, fresh facet, and it's lovely. So that's KIS from Hal of Hove. Next is a kind of perfect one for where we are right now, and that's called Èlan Vital, and that's from another British brand called To the Fairest. What Èlan Vital is, it's like a walk through a dark forest. probably as we start to get into autumn, in my mind, with all this, you know, all this moss everywhere, still some aromatic notes, some herbs. The trees have still got the leaves on just before they fall. It's not quite as warm, and the smells are magnificent. It's all greens and dark greens. There's like vetiver, there's nettle I think in it, and this kind of apothecary, lavendery, licoricey note in there, which I just adore, giving it this darker, nostalgic feel again. It's an absolutely beautiful, underrated fragrance. There's even a kind of not smoky, but an almost smokiness about it, which probably is again why it's quite nostalgic and quite moody, of this beautiful dark verdant forest. So that's Èlan Vital from To the Fairest London. Next is from another wonderful British indie brand, and that's called Nancy Meiland, and this one is called, why do I always get this mixed up, Èglantier. Now this is one of the most unique, unusual fragrances I've ever smelt. Now Èglantier, I learned this from Dr. Claire Perfumes, means rosehip. There is rosehip in it. I don't really know what that smells like or what it is, but what this fragrance is inspired by is them two Nordic seas that don't mix. So it's really unusual. It's all these things that don't go together in harmony with each other. It's got like neroli and orange blossom, so the sharp and the warm. It's got, like I say, that's kind of slight salty aquatic touch, and then this kind of warmth about it. There's a number of kind of florals going through it. It's got this kind of beautiful, stunning muskiness. The woods are kind of balanced. I think there's a smoother wood and a more woody wood. So all these things go together to create this fragrance that is quite indescribable. What does it smell like? The best way of describing it, a little bit like a sea, but it's not aquatic. It's just a little bit salty, and it's warm, and it's got this warm resinous feel about it with these floral feels. It's one again that you have to smell, because I don't think anyone describing this could do justice to it. So that's Èglantier, excuse me, from Nancy May. Now, like I say, these are in no particular order, but I think we're kind of moving up into my super duper favourites, the ones I wear an absolute tonnage of. So first is from a new indie perfumer on the scene, and that's Mabelle Rama, who is half Lebanese, and there's a lot of, or Lebanese, whatever, or of Lebanese descent, none of this matters, but there's a bit of that Lebanese culture in these fragrances, and the stories they tell, and the beauty and wonder. One day I'd love to go to Lebanon. Hopefully it hasn't been wiped off the face of the earth by someone, but Forbidden Bloom it's kind of one of them more tropical ones. It's like a sweet pear and peach that open it, that give this kind of warmth, almost a syrupy, boozy kind of thing there, with the tuberose flowers. I think this one is Frangipani Ortiari, one of them. I never remember them. And this kind of beautiful woodiness, and this kind of molecular touch in there, like a molecular vibrance and a powderiness, with the muskiness, which kind of pushes it, but it's nothing choking. It's not, you know, a metallic pepper ambroxan or anything like that. It just gives it this rounded kind of boost push off the skin. So it's lovely. It's basically a tropical, fruity, floral, woody one. Very warming, very kind of enveloping, and a little bit sexy. It's got this little, I suppose it's the muskiness, isn't it? This little kind of grrr about it. And it, never been to Lebanon, but I imagine this being like a perfect beach there. So yeah, that's as you can tell, I'm dying. Forbidden Bloom from BedeauX. Next is from Olfactive O, which is another British brand. Olivia's brand. She's not the perfumer, but I'd still consider this indie because it's very small, and her perfumer's kind of her own little secret person who is very wonderful. Now, fruity is, oh, it's so good. It's not like the name you're going to think. It's like a fresh raspberry and strawberry thicket. You know, you found the bushes and the brambles. So you get all that green. It's not sweet or anything like that. It's like the actual fresh smell of them in the air. You know, like a spring summer's day. And that kind of mixes with these little touches of boozy elements and the lovely vetiver and patchouli in the base. So it is like a more natural smelling one. It's like the actual walking through the forest or wherever these things are growing, and they're there, and that kind of booziness and a little bit of tartness in there adds a nice cheeky touch. It's just really delightful and fresh. And again, vibrant and greener than you think it would be. So that's Fruity from Olfactive O. And by now, if you know me, you know which two brands are missing. Yeah, two of my favourites ever. Very different, going different ways. But first up, we'll start with April Aromatics, which is based around the more kind of natural way. Now, I've picked Lotus Rising. There could be a few I could have picked to talk about different ones, but Lotus Rising is such a magnificent fragrance. It's really calming and serene, and is one of them fragrances that connects with me on a deep level. That's not like some influencer speak. It's one that I think, you know, you feel was made for you. It's got the lovely florals. There is lotus and a vintage lotus note in there, and it smells like the lotus rising through the muddy pond and blossoming with that beautiful soft scent. You get the kind of damp, muddy earthiness. You get all the green around it, and it's very smooth and calming, and the lotus has that right amount of sweetness to just kind of make you you can see why lotuses are really kind of spiritual, treasured flowers and that. So yeah, I won't go on and on and on. I'll be very brief. That is Lotus Rising from April Aromatics. And finally, yes, it's One Way Bridge, of course it is. And yes, I'm going to say Date with a Dame. This is a kind of New Zealand based one, and what Elise does best is bring these characters, bring these people, bring these scents to alive, that they're a living, breathing, vibrant person. And this one, Date with a Dame, I think she based it a bit on herself after she'd been through some things. Again, we're not going to get too personal about stuff. There's a video of mine if you want to go watch it. But what Date with a Dame is primarily a tuberose fragrance with heavenly musks, and this kind of smooth kind of cherry feel in there, just like I don't know where the cherry comes from. Apparently I'm one of the few people who can smell it. Gives it this cheeky touch. There's a warmth, there's a suediness in there, not overly leathery like a soft suede, and a little kind of dark touch of anise, just a little bit. And I think that's what adds most of the sweetness in there. So it's a beautiful kind of musky floral. I'd say it's definitely predominantly musky with them florals. Absolutely incredible fragrance, and the first one Elise ever made, and I'm not going to waffle on about it. That's One Way Bridge, Date with a Dame. So yeah, I'll keep this brief, this ending. As you can see, the sun is already starting to go down. I think we're about 2:30, something like that. I want to do more indie videos in the future, and I will, and I know I already do quite a few, but this is where the joy and excitement is in the fragrance world now. If you want something creative, something made by somebody with a passion, not just to make money, something to make you think, something, an expression of something, but still a beautiful, rounded, proper perfume, like they used to make in the old days, interesting and exciting, then indie, I'd recommend you go try indie. Not all indie's great. It's like any other fragrance, not all indie's going to be for you. Some of it might be a bit too artistic and out there. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't make the fragrances bad, it just makes them not for you. And indie perfumery's moved on a lot since the days it was some bloke in his shed mixing chemicals. Because obviously there's lots of rules and regulations, and some of these perfumers in here may be self-taught, but it all follows, it's perfumery, it's proper perfumery, it's not anything weird or what have you. And I definitely recommend you go try them out. I don't know how long this video is going to be, even though for me I have tried to keep every description and everything about a minute long, which doesn't really say a lot about things, does it, sadly? But that's not the point. I've probably got videos about every single fragrance mentioned in here that I go into a lot more depth with. So anyway, what about you? What's your favourite indie brands? Do you have a favourite from any of these? Are you moving more that way because of the generic mediocrity of mainstream perfumery now? Anyway, this should be after the new year, I think, so hope you all had a fine new year and all that jazz. 2025, eh? My prediction, it's actually going to be worse than the years that have gone before. I'm not optimistic, but things have to get worse before they get better and all that jazz. Anyway, thanks for watching. Bye.